Hey guys, and welcome to the weekly docket. Let's start in South Kakalaki with good old boy Alec Murdaugh. There are lots of dubious methods to meet the right person, your soulmate, that special someone. But however you rank them, the sketchy method of at bars definitely tops behind bars in my book. And yet nothing ventured, nothing gained, as Alec Murdaugh becomes the receiver of correspondence from the desperate and disturbed, with purported women unable to stop thinking about him, telling him how hot they are, berating him for not contacting them back, and so on. He should be the weird one in this situation, not you people. I mean, even if this dude didn't kill his family, but he did kill them, what exactly is in his character that's attractive? Is it the inclusive way he steals from everyone, regardless of race, color, creed, or disability? Is it the impressive scale of fraud, so many millions from so many people? Is it the abuse of his family name to hide his misdeeds? Maybe enabling his son's alcohol abuse while providing him vehicles? I guess it's hard to pick just one. Unfortunately for his partner in crime, Russell Lafitte, Murdaugh can't count federal judges among his newfound admirers. Lafitte has made various motions for a new trial, and his latest saying, hey, if Murdaugh could come testify now about how innocent I am, didn't you see him in his trial? I wouldn't be convicted. The federal judge ultra-dunked on this motion for multiple reasons, but ended with this crowd-pleasing 360 jam. Evidence offered during the defendant's trial established without question that Murdaugh is a serial liar and fraudster who stole from his clients and law partners. He now stands convicted of the double homicide of his wife and son. It is difficult to imagine a less credible witness under those circumstances. The motion was denied. Meanwhile, Murdaugh's request to raid more 401k funds from the receiver for his appeal is being opposed by the co-receivers and other parties. I agree with Mark Tinsley, who basically said it's nobody's fault but Murdaugh's how he spent the $600,000 he asked for. And really, it was eye-watering what they claimed to spend on expenses and experts and such, like $500,000. I mean, did you see the trial? Well, if the court turns him down, he can get a court-appointed attorney. How nice. Maybe do it himself. He's looking for things to keep himself active. Or Poot can soldier on with his honor being to represent Alec Murdaugh. At any rate, he's chafing in his protective custody, requesting transfer to Gen Pop, where his lawyer says he can contribute more. Whether he's reading his love notes in a tiny max security protective custody cell or while lounging on the yard in Gen Pop, his goose remains cooked. Let's head down to Florida in the Charlie Adelson case, where I am a fugitive and must report myself into the Department of Corrections for my last segment on that case. I reported his lover and co-conspirator Catherine was also in employ. I'm reliably told that was an error, but to my defense, I remember the discussion and confusion about this in the podcast that people had due to different circumstances of the case, and she was getting money from him and stuff. Nevertheless, incorrect is incorrect, and I am correcting the record now. I still suggest this case to you because it's extremely crazy, and there are more twists that could come. Scott Peterson in California is our next destination, the murderer who just won't give up. He's appealed in various ways for various reasons, and he succeeded in dumping his death penalty, but he wants to have his cake and eat it too. And inside of that cake, he wants to find a get-out-of-jail-free card. His latest efforts have been based on purported and drummed-up drama about whether a juror was inappropriately biased against him. The judge shot that down. But he soldiered on, filing an appeal pro per. That's always popular. And according to a site that supports him, new evidence has been submitted that someone heard someone else say they killed Lacey when she spotted them committing a burglary. Perhaps interestingly, this new evidence was not, from what I saw, placed in a public-facing filing or otherwise actually posted. It was just described. It should be, though, in theory, part of the reported 800 pages associated with his latest pro per appeal. I'd have to think even noted pro per authority Darrell Brooks would say, dude, just stop, dude. It does seem to me the site dedicated to supporting Peterson is in earnest, But it also seems to me it tries to paint a picture of Scott and Lacey as if their relationship were intact and he was a loving husband who lost his family. When really, of course, he turned up the lying to everyone up to 11 as he tried to establish a relationship with Amber, telling her he was in Paris and it was crowd noise while he was really at a memorial for his murdered wife. Okay, he's right where he needs to be. Let's take it up to Idaho in the Bryan Kohberger case, where I can't look away from the oh my God brigade. They continue to step from one absolutely ridiculous, meritless contrivance to the next. Moving from the oh my God, what is she hiding? Accusations against the survivor based on Inspector misspelling statement that she had portions of information the defense considered exculpatory. Insert laugh track here. The oh my God docket droolers' hopes were rekindled when the court noticed a hearing in May. Every next thing is the next big thing as the last big thing evaporates. It's just like swinging from vines in the jungle, and they never miss. Oh my God, this could be a motion to suppress evidence that ends the case. Instead, it was simply the trial court countering the motion to deal with the gag order filed by a victim's family's attorney that had been suspended when the action was live at the Idaho Supreme Court. So now she will consider this motion. It's not quite as exciting, is it? And she can also consider the position of the media, too, who have answered my question of whether they will follow the Supreme Court's guidance to go to the trial court by doing exactly that. The judge could say the order is what it is. In that case, probably going back up to the Supreme Court, and this time they'll listen to it, and the media will have exactly the same arguments. No problem with that. There may be some merit to the lack of factual foundation on the order and the alleged vagueness, especially since so many people seem incapable of understanding the order. She could vacate the order as requested. That would make the victim's family attorney happy and the media happy, but not the state or Kohberger. It would also potentially expose the case to publicity that could be troublesome when seating a jury, and that was a lot of the reason for the order in the first place. That leads us to the last, and I think wisest path, is for her to take it under advisement. Wait a little bit and then come back with a rewritten order that sets out a factual record demonstrating the basis for needing a gag order, and then rewrite it so that even a Twitter user might be able to understand it while making the provisions as narrow as possible to accomplish the objectives the judge seeks. I've already seen social media scholars claiming the Idaho Supreme Court is primed to strike down the gag order. It's a cool story. But even if they did on vagueness or overreach, she could just enter a new order addressing that. But my money, if I were betting on things like this, which I don't, would be on her fortifying the order now, making the odds of an appeal, or at least particularly a successful appeal, remote. Again, like them or not, properly drawn gag orders with the right justification and scope, they are permitted. Let's go to Colorado in the Letecia Stauch case. That trial, the issue of insanity has become the central issue. Oh, wait, in terms of Stauch meeting the legal definition of insanity, i.e. not knowing what she was doing was wrong, nah, it's obvious she did know, and her pre-planning and taking so many steps to cover it up, it shows that. I'm talking about the actual insanity it would take to think her expert in any way helped her case. Dr. Lewis, the queen of Uz, was debunked entirely as her testimony became a stream of WTF moments. This did not require the surgical precision of the DA in the Mark Jensen case, who put an epic masterclass on in cross-examination. Not that the DA in the Stauch case wasn't doing a good job, but this doctor was basically self-impeaching. Her final bits of testimony were marred by potato-level audio to match the potato video quality law and crime can provide, I guess, due to the court limitations. But her audio dropping out half the time just meant half the ridiculousness was called. But that remaining 50%? WTF, baby. Here's just one part. As the DA finished a video clip of this doctor interviewing Stauch in a forensic exam, a man in the room with them leaves. The DA says, "Who was that?" She literally says, "I don't know." Then he literally says, "It's your son. Don't you recognize your own son?" Then she literally said, "Oh yeah." And then everyone literally thought you have your son with you in this forensic interview with the defendant.
Who was that other person that was leaving the room there, Dr. Lewis? Well, Mr. Cellini went out the door and then some gentleman with a mask on followed him out. Who was that person?
I don't recall the name.
Can we just play that portion back? We're going to play the portion back. You can just look at this TV right here. Well, freeze it. Who's that person right there?
I don't recognize it.
That's not your son? You don't recognize your own son?
because he was running the camera, but I don't recognize.
Running the camera, Dr. Lewis. He's going out the door when the camera shuts off. What is your son doing in the interview room? Is that recognized within the field of psychiatry to do forensic interviews with people who are charged with first degree murder and bring your son along?
And then the video just abruptly ends after that, after he walks out of the room. And she couldn't explain that either. And she couldn't explain why it made any sense to have her son in the room. And she couldn't explain why it made sense for her to ask Stauch leading suggestive questions like, did you hear a demon? Yeah. To quote Dr. Lewis, exactly. That testimony to me went absolutely nowhere. I guess if you're scraping the bottom of the barrel and need somebody to say you're insane, you'll find somebody. But this to me was, if the audio had been better, it would be an absolute classic to watch and like, oh my God, what is happening here? Anyway, that's it for this week. Thanks. Bye.